So we have covered quite a bit so far. We've looked at printing, we've outputting, we've looked at inputting, we've looked at storing some values in some variables so that we can then output them. But what about those inputs that we did previously? So we asked the user, for example, to enter their name, we asked the user to enter their favourite colour or their age or whatever it might be. When we used that input function, that allowed us to interact with the user and ask the user to type something into the shell, into the console window. But that input was not stored. In order to store anything, any value, any data in a program, we are going to need to have a variable, and we will need to assign it with what we want it to hold. And in the case of inputs, that is going to be what the user inputs as a result of calling that function. Now this does cause some confusion, so I'm going to go through this with you. Let me open up a new Python file. Just make it a little bit smaller so we can have it side by side. Here we go. Okay, let's do the same thing we did before. I'm going to create a variable username. And this time I'm going to assign it with nothing. Okay, it's just going to be empty. And a variable called age. I'm going to assign that as 0. We're just going to have 0 in there. And then height, and assign that with 0 too. So if I were to create these print statements now and ask it to print the contents of these variables, let's have a little look on what it will do. Oh, I'm doing it all wrong here, aren't I? There we go. Print height. Got there in the end. Okay, so run this. And I'm going to save this as input variables. Okay, so here, over here we've got a blank line because that was printing the username, which I assigned to nothing. 0 and 0. So rather than entering the values in directly, and they would be the same at the same time every time you run a program, perhaps we want to get those values from the user. We want to ask the user, what is your name? What is your age? What is your height? So what we would do, rather than assign these with nothing, I'm going to assign them, nothing or the actual value, I'm going to assign it to the input. So we have that variable and it's being assigned not a direct value and not blank, but it is being assigned whatever the user will input as a result of calling the input function. Let's do the same for age. Well done if you spotted my mistake. And to be lazy, I'm going to copy and paste this input and stick that there, and then just put height in there. Okay. Run module. Okay. So I'm running it again this time. It hasn't outputted this. It's paused because it's waiting for me to enter my name. Claire. Enter. Enter your age. 39. Enter that. And now enter my height. 5.5. Now, Claire 39 5.5 have been printed here. I'm going to run this again. But this time, I'm going to pretend to be a person called Bob, who is 34 and 6'2". There we go. And this time, Bob 34 6'2" has been stored inside these variables. So if I would like a value to come in from the user and I use the input function, in order to retain that value in my program, it needs to be assigned to a variable. Then whatever comes in from the user will be kept inside that variable until it's either changed or the program ends. And then we can also output those as and when we want to. Okay, so I'd like you to stop this video now and to practice assigning your own inputs to some variables. If you get stuck with some errors, watch the next video and I'll go through some common syntax and logic errors re-inputting or assigning inputs into variables.